First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And this is an article here that I was, as I was looking through the various articles, I came across this one. This is on rtnews.com, and this is published today. And as you can see, it says Dr. Doom predicts historic market crash in U.S. It says renowned economist Nouriel Roubini uh, issues a warning as the Fed tries to curb soaring inflation. And congratulations to them because they've managed to have the country in a place where, regardless of what action is taken, they can have a nice crisis on their hands. So it says the U.S. economy could sink into a quagmire of shrinking output, surging inflation, and soaring unemployment, renowned economist and New York University professor Nouriel Roubini warned last week during an eToro webinar. He argued that the Federal Reserve might have to double interest rates to 5%, Lord have mercy, in order to curb inflation. However, such an increase could choke economic growth and cause a spike in joblessness, Roubini stressed. Moreover, raising rates could trigger a debt crisis. So these are some potential risks of raising those rates, which is to fight inflation. The economist also cautioned that the U.S. regulators' moves to rein in inflation could tank the economy and cause crashes across stocks, bonds, housing, credit, private equity, and other assets in bubble territory. So in essence, they're going to end up popping the bubble. However, if the central banks give up on fighting inflation, price increases could spiral out of control. Stubborn inflation and the CV-demic might force the Fed to drive the U.S. economy into an even deeper recession than the one it has avoided. All right. So now you can see that, like we've been telling you, it's coming down to the wire. They're running out of time and they have to make a decision. So now you got to see, well, which way are they going to go with it? But either way it goes, you can prepare for some very harsh economic turmoil. And economic turmoil leads to other things as well. I believe in California, they're already talking about the how weak the grid is and how people need to stop using as much electricity before there's blackouts. So as the Lord said, this is the beginning of sorrows, and as he said in Matthew 24, and it looks like we're entering into that dark winter that was spoken about a year ago. I worry about stagflationary debt crisis, or I worry about a stagflationary debt crisis, because you have the worst of the 70s in terms of supply shocks, and you have the worst of the global financial crisis because of too much debt. And that combination is dangerous, he said. Not to mention the MP, they still got that. They still coming with that. All right, don't sleep on it. And then here on the side, you can see Germany can't avoid recession. So this isn't a one country thing. This is happening globally. They're shifting that global change. That global reset is in effect. If you're behind the curve, eventually the recession is going to be more severe. The loss of jobs and income and wages is going to be more severe, the economist explained, referring to the Fed's rate hikes relative to inflation. You need to be ahead of the curve. So they're pretty much behind the curve when it comes to the rates compared to the inflation. And in order to get ahead of the curve, well, they might just end up breaking everything in the process. Roubini came to prominence for predicting the financial crisis of 2008-09 and was dubbed Dr. Doom by Wall Street. So this is what Dr. Doom has to say. And I mean, it's getting more and more obvious by the day. Bars. But I mean, at the end of the day, man, you still have people that choose not to pay attention. They act as though none of this is happening. When it happens, when you can't go to the bank to get your money, when there's bank runs and the bank, you have bank holidays, and all your money is out, whether through inflation, your savings is worth nothing, you know, or whatever the case may be. That's when people are gonna realize, yo, man, shit, man, what's going on, man? Yo, what we gotta do? And it's gonna be too late to really do much, you know. So this is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 1, verse 10, because the scriptures also talk about an economic collapse. All right, collapse of the economy, or collapse of governments. So this is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 1, verse 10. It says, "And it shall come to pass in that day." What day is that? The day of the Lord. Okay. Saith the Lord, that there shall be the noise of a cry from the fish gate, and an howling from the second. Now, the fish gate and the second, these were actual places, that were back then, all right, in Israel. And like today, shit. I mean, what's a good example? I don't know. D.C., Washington, the Wall Street, whatever. It's like the equivalent of that. Like today, we would say a certain area to identify, so people know where we're talking about. Well, that's what Zephaniah is doing here, but referring to the names of the places they had back then. But as he says, there shall be a cry, okay, a noise of a cry. Let's actually look up the word cry. And we have here, okay, so we have Taza, was that a qua? Tazai qua, Tazaqua. Um, and it says here, cry, outcry, outcry, cry of distress. Okay, cry of distress. So now, um, let's go ahead and keep on reading, right? So it says here, there shall be a cry from the fish gate, and an howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. Now, when you read in the scriptures, there are times when you read about mountains and hills, and they'll represent actual physical land masses, but sometimes they're metaphorical for governments. Okay, mountains are often metaphorical for governments, depending on what the context of the scripture is. As they call the top of the mountain a summit, and that's what they do when they have these governmental meetings. Some of them, they call them a summit. Okay, and a hill, in this sense, is really a lesser government. You have big governments, you have small governments, but nevertheless, let's look up the word crashing. All right, and that's what we say, right? The economy is gonna crash. All right, the economy is crashing. So you have here breaking, fracture, crushing, breach, crash, breaking, shattering. And that's what's going to happen to this place. Okay? That's exactly what's going to happen. You're already seeing that they're telling you there's no easy way out of this thing. It says, "Howl, ye inhabitants of Maktesh." Now, when you go to the word Maktesh in the dictionaries, let's look that up here. It says, "Mortar, a place in or near Jerusalem, inhabited by silver merchants," right? And what do merchants do? Let's look up the word merchants. It says, "A person or company involved in wholesale what? Trade, especially one dealing with foreign countries or supplying merchandise to a particular trade." So these investors, these people on Wall Street, these people invested in the stock market, they're all merchants. Okay? Now, as it says here, inhabited by silver merchants, it has been conjectured that it was the Phoenician quarter of the city where the traders of that nation resided after the Oriental custom. So the modern day Maktesh would be likened onto Wall Street, all right, or in a digital sense, or online sense, the stock market. Okay, and you have all sorts of trades and that go on there, right? But as the prophecy says, how now Zephaniah wasn't going to say Wall Street or the stock market, because that's not a that wasn't those weren't terms that they had back then. Nevertheless, he's still talking about the same thing. It says, "For all the merchant people are cut down." And who are the merchant people? The investors, stockholders, shareholders, all these people that are in these things, right? And they're cut down. All they that bear silver are cut off. Why? Because the economy is going to crash. Okay, the stock market is going to go. All of these things. It's going to be very tumultuous. There's going to be a lot of turmoil. And just as recently you had the CEO, I believe a CEO, if I'm not mistaken, or CPO, but one of those of Bath and Body Works that basically leaped to his demise. All right, and these rich men, these merchants, as they see things going down, and then reality sets in as to how bad it's gonna be. That Bath and Body Works guy ain't gonna be the first. I mean, he ain't gonna be the last. Okay, because this place is going down, and it's gonna be worse than 2008 is gonna be worse than the ones you've seen in the past, and it's gonna bring a lot of disarray and turmoil. But that's according to biblical prophecy. So that's why we are always watching and reading these different articles, keeping up with the headlines, because we see that we're inching closer and closer and closer to that point. And you need to be mentally ready. So when it happens, you're not confused and you're not panicking and losing your mind, but you're aware of what's happening, okay? And the potential dangers that it will bring. So anyway, with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kudash. Until next time, Shalom.